Today's episode, Mailbag, something I've never seen before, sent in by a viewer. I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy this one. This thing was a dog's breakfast inside. I've never opened one up before, and they're kind of unique. Let's check this out. Well, it's time for the mailbag, and today I have a little package that was sent in from a viewer, Ken of Kimming, Pennsylvania. I'm blocking out his name and address, obviously, for privacy reasons. He sent me this little package as a donation to my channel and said, you know what, why don't you take this apart and see what it is and see if you can make this thing work. So, let's open this up. I have no idea what this is. Actually, I have an idea what it is, but let's just open the package up here and see what Ken sent me. We'll get out my scalpel here. And, you know, I mean, everybody's got their own tool, right? I mean, Dave Jones of the EEV blog uses that giant knife, so I might as well use my surgeon's scalpel to open this up. Looks like it came from eBay. What we got in here? A bag. It's wrapped up here really nice. A little square box. Any guess what this is? It's a Pittsburgh Pirates Sony Watchman. Wow. Now this is one of the smallest of the CRT televisions that Sony made. And this is their I think this is a 2-inch. This is a flat CRT. Much like the one that I've got on my bench here that looks at my rat cam. Of course, the rat cam, this one here, which is sitting on my workbench, over my workbench, monitors my little infrared camera that's actually up in the attic that's monitoring the old Victor rat trap in case we have any unwelcome guests. And that little rat trap actually has done its job. I caught one of those little vermin there last year, but I haven't seen one since, so I think I got the one and only one that managed to find its way into my attic space. But I've left the camera up there, and I've left the baited trap up there, and I check it every day to see if there's anything in it. So I just turn this thing on, take a look at it, and then turn it off. This is the same technology, but this is the other one that we saw before. This is the 4-inch. This was part of the Sony Watchcam package that they had. I actually have the camera that came with this, and I should dig it out and service it because it's a little tube type Satacom tube camera that uses a little 1/4 inch tube, which is probably one of the smallest, if not the smallest, Satacom pickup tube that was ever made. Anyway, this one here is a portable TV. Obviously, it's an analog TV. I have no idea if this thing works or not. So I guess the first thing we'll do is we'll apply power to it and see if it does anything. Now, the specifications for this is 6 volts. You notice it's tip negative. So I've got my patch cord here. I'm just going to wire this up to my power supply and give it 6 volts negative tip. So I've got my bench power supply set for 6 volts, and I'm going to short the probes together, or short the clips together here, so I can set the current. I don't think this thing's going to draw more than about 2 amps, so I'm going to set the current down at 2 amps, just to be safe. It's not going to draw that much. I could probably set it down to 1 amp, but maybe set it down to maybe 1.5. That should be plenty, so that if there's a problem, it's not going to short anything out and not going to cause any more damage. Since it's tip negative, the white wire here is tip, so I'm going to connect the positive to the outside shield, connect the negative up to the tip. Now I'll have 6 volts negative tip on here, and I'll just plug it in and see whether we get any noise or any action. Okay, power off. We'll turn the power on. And I see nothing. But I see it's drawing 0.017 amps. When I turn off the switch, it's drawing nothing. So this unit doesn't work. I hear a click though through the speaker. You can hear that probably. So let's pop this thing apart and take a look inside it and see whether I can get this unit working. So we'll take the battery out the back. Well, there's no batteries in it, but we'll take the battery case out. And to open this up, there's going to be some screws in the bottom here. Little microscopic screws. There's going to be, I guess, probably about 4 screws. Get the old Walkman screwdriver out. and remove all the screws. Be interesting to see if I can get this little vintage piece of tech working. This one dates back to 1984. And of course, what's collectible about this is one that was officially sold through the Pittsburgh Pirates. What people used to do with these is they would take these to the game, right? Football fans would take a little portable TV to the game so that they could watch the play-by-play and they could listen to the sportscast, because of course a lot of the games were broadcast on one of the big three broadcasting stations down in the States, either ABC, NBC, or CBS, or Fox, I guess, were carrying the games live, and you could sit in the stand and watch the replay on your own little portable TV. So they sold these little sets, and people took them to the games, and some of the teams would actually, endorse them and probably sell it through the team. But this looks to be printed right on here, which of course will certainly increase the actual value of a little unit like this, providing I can get it working. So we'll take the back off it. The back just comes off like that. Oh, I gotta take out one more screw here. Don't want to forget that one. That one's holding a bracket that's holding the controls in place on the circuit board. So there's the back off of the unit. Oh, look at this. Look at this here. This is, looks like maybe some batteries went corroded in this thing at one point. I can see some corrosion down here. Maybe some batteries leaked into this thing and caused some damage. But this board here looks like it's been worked on. Actually, that might not have been worked on. That looks like that was almost a modified Sony. That almost looks like a little layer of circuit board that's been laid on top and soldered down with some components. So this looks almost like this might have been a modification with a part number right there. Interesting. Very interesting. We'll just take out the board here. Take out the ground screw. This way I can lift the board out and take a look at the other side of it. I guess I got to take out these other screws as well. How do they make these things so small? This is like that. This is as bad as that little color Panasonic one with the color tube in it. But this one here's got circuitry actually on both sides. The picture tube actually comes down right to the back, so I got to be careful that I don't damage the tube trying to open this thing up. I think I may have to remove, I think this comes off the front here. Glass comes off there. This is actually the picture tube here. I'm going to try and get this out of here without damaging it. And that's the fun part, is to try and get this thing apart, because these things were so compact. And I've never worked on one like this. Oh, there's the bezel. Take the bezel out. What else? Oh, there's more screws. That might explain why it's not coming apart. Let's just take out these two screws here. This should release the bracket that holds the tube in place, and then the whole thing should drop right out. There's that one out, and this one out. And this whole tube should now push right through and lift out. You gotta be careful though, this thing's under a very high vacuum, and I don't really want to have any flying glass, if you know what I mean. The tube should just come out like this. tube is there. And what else is holding this in? You see, this board is wrapped around the tube. It's got to be really careful. Oh, another screw holding this other board in place. A couple more screws here I have to take out to lift out the control board, and then the whole thing should just lift right out. Well, not as easy said. It's easier said than done because we have this tuning dial as well that's in here. So I may not need to take it apart any more than that. But, oh, I see there's some corrosion right down here, as I thought. If you look down here on this board here, there's some corrosion right down here. So I think that's what's happened is the batteries have leaked on this thing, and maybe that's why it's not. Maybe that's why it's not turning on, is that we've got corrosion. And I'm going to have to repair that damage. But there's the little picture tube, as you can see. Here's the electron gun. This fires up here, and the electron beam actually gets bent to the back and displays on the back side of this tube. They're really quite cool devices. Here's the second anode, comes up right down here. So this is all under high vacuum. This tube. This is actually a conventional picture tube. They sure made this thing small, that's for sure. Looking at that circuit now, you can see that's actually part of the main circuit. You can see it here. It's actually cut away. They actually cut away a portion of the board so that the yoke, because it's so compact, the yoke coil actually sits up inside here. So they actually had to cut away a portion of the board, and this is actually the board itself. This little flexible board, that's actually part of the board itself. Isn't that weird? I've never seen one of these before, but just because they didn't have the space, they cut away the board from the inside just to give it enough room to put that yoke in there to make this thing as absolutely thin as possible. Our flyback transformer is here. Okay, Q805, here is the horizontal output. Where did I see it here? Q805, this is my horizontal output. They call it the converter output right here. And that is this transistor right down there. So I'm just going to use my scope, and I'm going to see if there's any type of a drive signal or any attempt of a drive signal to come up when I power it up here. I don't see any attempt to start, and I see no drive. So we have to look back before the converter output. So Q803 right down here is the drive signal. So I'm going to look at Q803 and see if there's any drive signal coming off of that as I power it up. Nothing. Going to look for voltage off of the regulator drive transistor, which is Q601. And this should give me my regulated, what is it supposed to be here? Looks like 6 volts going in. 4.7 it looks like. This is the terrible scan. Well, we'll see. Q601 is on this other board down here. This is the one that I thought may have had some corrosion get on it. But let's just take a look at the voltage here. 6 volts, 1.4, 5.89. That's a good sign. I think this regulator's not working properly. I just heard static. I haven't seen if there's a picture, but I think this regulator 601 is not working. It's driven off of 602, which is driven off the regulator drive, which is Q603. And they are down in here. Okay, this might be where the problem is. Right down here, this is where this corrosion is. And this may be the problem with this thing. There's a variable resistor right down here. I don't know if I want to take this out. That's the problem, is this is going to take my dial string out, but I guess I don't have any choice. I'll have to figure out how to put that back on. I'm just going to remove this other board here so I can look at the regulator, because it appears to be that we have a power supply problem on this. As you just heard, the amplifier just came on and I have static. So I'm going to assume that I've also probably got high voltage, and I've probably also got a raster. If I can get this thing to work, this TV might stand a chance of actually producing a picture. So this comes off. This should just come out here. Oh, it doesn't take that off. Excellent. The dial string is separate, so I'm good. I'm in luck. I'm golden here. This is my transistor that I was working on. As you can see, this corrosion on this pin here. This is all corroded. This is the adjustment control for the voltage. Couldn't have been that simple. Couldn't have been that simple just to rock that control a bit. Nah, no way. No way it's that simple. Or is it? I got a light. I got a light. It works. Very cool. Let's put a signal into this thing and get a picture on it. Gotta like it. Something as simple as the problem on this bloody TV looks to be right here. If I can zoom in, something got into this control right here. Maybe some battery acid or something got into that control and was causing it to cut off power. So I had no power through the regulator. And I just moved the control a bit. And the TV appears to be working. Let's hook up a signal to this thing and find the antenna wherever it goes on this. There's a connector here, I believe, for the antenna. Okay, let's see. If I turn this thing on, am I going to get anything? I have sound. Cool. Very cool. It's got a picture. You can see it? That is cool. Let's see. Let me adjust the contrast level here. I think this is the contrast control. Yes, it is. There we go. Isn't that neat? That is so cool. I don't want anything to touch here. I'm just going to move stuff around so nothing is going. I'm going to get my probes and stuff out of the way here that I'm hooked up to this thing. as I don't think I need them anymore. I think I've solved the problem with this set. We'll just try adjusting the voltage on this thing a bit. See whether that will change the picture at all. Yeah, you see? That affects the size of the screen. It also affects the vertical hold, it looks like. Very cool. It's hard to see with all the light in here, with all the reflections, but that thing is working. That is so cool. Crank that voltage up. Up, up, up. We want to make lots of X-rays. This is how they set the width of it. It draws 300 milliamps at 6 volts. 320 milliamps actually is the current draw at 6 volts. But there you have it. It's working. Now I just need to figure out a way to get this thing back together after I've taken it all apart. Isn't that cool? I know that, you know, a few other guys have received these little TVs, and I don't know if anybody else has fixed one. I know the EEV blog had one, but I don't remember whether he actually got his working or not. So this one's fully functional. And these little units are actually quite scarce these days, especially with the small tubes. So this is going to go into my collection, of course, of miniature TVs. I do have that Panasonic CT101 that I showed off before. That's actually my set. I actually was able to purchase that one from the guy that had it. So I got that set. So now I've got this one, this little black and white set to add to my collection. Now I just need to find one of those Sony Indexitron portable sets with like that. I think it's like a 3.7 inch screen. That would be icing on the cake to have one of those that's functional. Of course, I do have the Indexitron projector with the Betamax player, which is another very rare piece that I have in my collection of old vintage stuff. It switches to UHF, wherever the switch is for that. There's a UHF VHF switch here somewhere. I think it's right here. Let's see what we get on the UHF band, which shouldn't be much. Should just be the clock display actually. The time display. Okay, it calls for 4.8 volts on the collector of the transistor. 4.78 is close enough. Let's see if I can get that to 4.8. .8 volts. Okay. But the voltage is now set. I think I can put this thing back together now, and we'll see it work when I get it together. That's going to be the fun part, getting this thing back together. It's fun taking it apart. It's going to be even more fun putting it back together. Okay, so first I'll put this might go back together easier than it came apart because Really didn't know what the hell I was doing when I was taking this thing apart. Picture tube goes in like that, and there's a bracket that goes around it. I remember that part. Oh, wait a minute, the bracket's got to go around it first. Bracket slides over the tube. I think it goes in like that. Help! What way did this come out? I don't remember. It goes in like that. Yeah, goes in like that. Okay. Tube bracket. There'll be a couple screws that go in through here to hold this funky little picture tube in place. Somehow there's a bracket that goes in there, and I can actually see where the screws go. One screw is there and it's still in place, so I should be able to tighten that screw up. And that'll hold the picture tube in on that side. And then there's another one that goes in down on this side of the tube. Somewhere in here, a little silver screw, a little Watchman size screw. See, they make them this size so that you can lose them, right? And somehow that will connect in there, and we'll hold that tube in place. There. Now the tube is safe. Sort of. Tube is in place. I got to put this sensing wire that goes onto the tube. This is, I guess, to sense the. I guess I don't know if it senses the high voltage or what it does, but anyway, there's a wire that was stuck on the back of the tube. Or whatever it does, it just kind of just sticks on there like that. And then I've got this other little board that has to go in place. This is the tuning board that controls the tuner, and it goes in place like that. Are we having fun yet? Not at all. And somehow that goes in like that, and if I play my cards right, I will have lined up the tuner control with the dial string. Now what is this for? See, I'm missing little brackets. All these things fell out on this thing. I'll put these screws in and I will see, first of all, whether this thing even does anything. Once I get the screws back in, my luck, it won't work at all. There's another screw that holds this board in, and it's right down here. Okay, that should work now when I put power to this thing. Good sign. Get all the dust out of there. I know this is the volume control indicator. This just sits in here, down like this. It goes up and down when you turn up and down the volume. That goes up and down with the volume. That goes on there, and this goes in front of here, right? So that when you turn up the volume, you see the volume indicator. And the tuner tells you what channel you're on down here. So as I continue to mount the board, this actually is for the hand strap, right? You guys thought I didn't know where it came from, but it's actually for the, there's a little hand strap thing that you put around it. Where the heck it goes on here? Anyway, it's a little piece that sticks out for the hand strap. Pretty sure that that's what that was for. Just gotta figure out where it goes. It's probably on this. Oh, right. Of course it's right up here. Oh! Goes right in through like this. But with my luck, I gotta take the picture tube out again to put this stupid thing in. I do have to take the picture tube out to put it in because, oh well. So we just remove this bracket again. Lift the tube up a bit so that I can get that stupid bracket back in here where it belongs. It goes in like that. Sticks out through the slot. Like that. And then the tube goes back in underneath here. The face back on. Put the antenna back in here. Now, of course, these TVs these days are just more of a novelty because, of course, there's no more analog signals. You can still use them with a converter box, right? They'll still receive a channel 3 signal from a converter box, and of course, it has an AV input on it, so I can always plug it into a closed circuit source, right? From like a camera or Blu-ray or anything that's got a composite output will feed it. Put the antenna back in. Mount the circuit board and then we'll test it before putting the back on it. So get the board in place. Cram all these wires back in where they belong. Very, very tight fit. There's really no extra room in this thing. It's just ridiculous how tight the fit on this thing is. It's crazy. Okay, we have a screw down here in the circuit board. There's two of them. There's one down here that holds the board onto this bracket. There's another one up here. I believe it was in the corner. Yeah, there's another one that goes in up here to hold the board in place. That one went there. And then there's going to be the controls that have to fit in here to adjust the contrast and the vertical hold. They go in like that. Okay, this thing should be ready to test. There's my time display on channel 40. I should have something on 27 down here. Yeah, that's off my house cable. And if I go to the other band, wherever the band selector switch is on this thing, where's the other band selector? It's on this side, I think. Go to VHF. I should have my channel 4, which is my cable box. Channel 5 is another cable box. It's not very good the way I've got it connected here. Should be channel 7. My camera is on channel 9. And something on channel 7 here somewhere. And then my music channel on channel 12. It's working. Let's get the back on this thing. Yeah, this one's so strong, this modulator. I don't even have to hook the antenna up. It just broadcasts. This is a really strong modulator. The output's like plus 60 dB. It's pretty intense. Let me get the back on this thing. And this little unit will be good as new. If you guys have anything that you think might be interesting to share, you can certainly send it to me as a donation like this one came in. And if it's fixable, I'll do what I can to get it going. If not, we'll just have a good look at it and tear it down and analyze the circuitry and see how it was made. But in this case, we got this one going. We lucked out. Just like that. Put the remaining screws in it. And for you guys watching, I've never fixed one of these before. This is the first Sony Watchman that I've ever taken apart. Never seen one before. Well, I've seen one, but I've never fixed one before. Never taken one apart. So, for those of you wondering about my technical competence on this stuff that I've never seen, I think I probably answered that question. Battery holder. Okay, power cord. That's a little stand on here. You can stand it up. There you go. Pittsburgh Pirates. Official Pittsburgh Pirates Sony Watchman. Brought back from the dead. There you go. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you again in the next one real soon.